So I do have quite a few videos of my setup. With that being said, am I constantly changing my setup? You best believe. Because I'm always improving something. I'll get another video of my new setup and what I've rearranged up later today. Now when it comes to breeds, it might seem a little excessive. I do have 5 breeds. I could easily cut it down to probably 2 breeds, but I'm not going to because I enjoy the 5 breeds I have, and I have room to improve them. So I have Mini Rex, which are my tried and true and longest running lines. They're also the lines that I'm most obsessive about and the best lines in my barn. We use these for the local 4-H kids so that they can use them in 4-H or FFA or ARBA shows. Mostly it's like my little community project. Because Mini Rex is so easy to handle for kids and it kind of gets their feet in the water when it comes to competitions. Then I have my Californians, which are my lovely spite project. They were originally just meat animals. Now I am getting them to the standard of perfection to show them. Currently Tati is pulling fur, and I'm excited to see what she does in the next couple of days. Next are my Champagne d'Argents. I have a breeding pair, and Belle sucks. She's supposed to be pregnant right now. I don't think she is. If she doesn't have babies by September, I am getting a new doe, but I'll still just have the breeding pair. I'm just trying this breed out. I think they're gorgeous, but I'm not sure what to think. Absolutely love my Moose Man, though. If nothing else, I will keep Moose as a show bun for the rest of his time and use him as an example for my 4-H kids to work with larger rabbits because he's just so easy to handle. He's going to be the rare perma pet that everyone always asks me about. Next, we have my Rex, like standard Rex if you're from Europe. I got them as a replacement for my Mini Rex because my thought was I love Mini Rex and they are amazing and I needed a meat rabbit, so let's try Rex. They did not replace my Mini Rex and now I have Rex on their own and I'm working on improving chinchilla lines. And I also have otters. They're doing really well in show. I didn't need another breed, but I love them so much. They're also a good alternative for my FFA kids for meat pens if they want something a little more docile. Finally, this is the one breed that would stay above all others. I'd probably keep this breed in my Mini Rex, and that is Silver Fox. I started getting into Silver Fox very late last year, early this year, and I absolutely love that breed. We are working on show lines. Like I said, I just had 2 bucks that got best of breeds at this last show a couple weeks ago. And I'm just waiting for that COD to drop on the blues so I can show them as well. So I have quite a few breeds I absolutely love to show. I've had some requests for my setup, so I thought I'd show you guys. So we're still in the same half-barrel barn. This row right here are of my singleton females who are breeding age or getting close to breeding age, and where I keep my Mini Rex while they still have kits in their boxes.
And of course the itty bitty little kits.
Then right here I have a stack of bucks. Of course we have Strawberry, and then we have Freak. Then towards the back we have our mama stack. In here we have 2 with her babies. She is fostering a singleton California buck, and the other 2 in this stack are just making nests. Then my stack adjacent is my other buck stack. Then in the middle of the barn, I have what I call my weanling stack. So this group of girls right here is just 8 weeks old. They just came off of mama. I don't want to put extra stress on them, so we put them together in a cage. While we decide what to do, whether we're going to keep them or not. And then over in this back corner and down the side here, we have more grow out / nursing cages. So the idea in this barn is I have bucks in the front and back of the barn. They're in their own stack, they can't reach the females, and they don't spray as much because they're pretty separated out. Then on this side, I have all of my does, so I can take the does from these cages and move them to the bucks. They'll go back into these cages for 2 to 3 weeks until we decide they're pregnant. And then we'll move them into these nursing cages, which are the larger cages for growing out. Once they hit 8 weeks, then we move them again into the weaning cages. And we keep them in groups like this just for now because they're used to being in groups, and we'll separate them out male to female. If we are keeping them, they'll stay here in the barn in groups of 2 in cages till about 12 weeks or till they start getting their hormones in, and then we'll put them in separate cages. If we don't keep them, I move them somewhere else. So I am building a couple grow out cages behind the barn. They're not completely finished yet, which will give the animals time to grow out. But as a lot of you know, we have the butcher barn. And this is where we just put our animals that aren't going to stay in the program, but they still need time to grow out and more space. And our butcher cages are just the equivalent of 3 24 by 24 inch cages thrown together. This allows us to throw a lot of rabbits together all at once right before we're getting ready to butcher. So they're in these cages for not very long, normally about a week or 2. Now I do have what I call the experiment pen. I'm only seeing 1 buck out right now. I am running tests to see how this works. So one of the more common comments that I've been getting on my most recent video is, oh, they need space to run, they need to be let out, you need to let them go so they can exercise. Which, conflated human emotion to what animals should or should not be doing does not equal to what actually happens and what should happen. We humans like to conflate a lot through ethos and pathos arguments. So letting the rabbits out of their cages to just run around can be detrimental. RHVD2, coccidiosis, EC, and a multitude of other diseases and pathogens can be transferred to those rabbits by just letting them out to run. Meaning if I conflate my human emotions over the needs of my animals, I can end up killing all of them. Not to mention, rabbits are prone to things like heart attacks and breaking their backs. Remember, when it comes to raising livestock, it's risk versus reward. Facts over emotion. And if you can't give me an accredited source, then I am not going to change how I run my rabbitry. But if you can give me an accredited source, I will be happy to change, because at the end of the day, it's about the betterment of my livestock and not the emotions of the people outside of my farm. Look, y'all, I might be chaotic, but I'm lawfully chaotic. I also have severe ADHD and hyperfixate on a lot of things and have studies ready in an instant, so if I am saying something, it's because I spent way too much time on it with research. So if I was specifically starting over from ground zero just for meat, the first thing I would do is I would look specifically for a commercial meat breed rabbit. So we're talking Californians, New Zealand whites right off the bat. Something extremely fast growing in comparison to, ooh, pretty colors. I'd be willing to get cheaper stock as long as they had proven growth rates. Like, pedigree wouldn't be that big of a deal. I want to see growth rates and how fast they can butcher out when they are 5 pounds. And then I would also, when it comes to getting that breed, I would focus on getting a set of 4, so 2 males and 2 females, and I would specifically focus on my own line breeding program to incorporate that fast growing as well as large litters. Like SOP out the window, we're gonna do mega Californians! But I kind of hyper-focus when it comes to like show animals, so maybe someday I'll work on a mega Californian project, but for now I am not just doing plain meat animals. But yeah, it would be fun. My freezer looks like a little shop of horrors. But basically what we do is we will butcher the animal out, and when it comes to like the internal organs, we will either freeze them or dehydrate them. And dependent on which we do, we either then blend it and put it in their kibble or give it as a treat. If we freeze it, it goes in the kibble. If we dry it, it's a treat. When it comes to harder like cartilage parts like chicken feet, I'll freeze them for in the summer and they can chew on them because it's like a cold little popsicle treat. But when it comes to like the bones and the meat and everything, we feed raw and we will just cut it into sections. So if I'm just feeding straight up meat, I'll just like cube it because we don't have a grinder. But if I'm feeding like pieces, like for instance, I'll feed each dog 1 shoulder blade and front leg, so it's about that much. And then for the meat pieces, I'll normally weigh out 1/4 pound of the rabbit meat, and then they'll also get about 1/4 pound of like a fattier meat on top of their kibble. but raw is a really nice addition on top of their kibble, but we do follow our vet's recommendations. So we have 5 does that are due to kindle tomorrow. Let's talk about each one and what I do to mitigate problems with first-time moms. So this is Vanessa. She's a silver fox. She is 7 months old. This is her first litter, and the reason why I get so nervous about first-time moms is I know nothing about them. So I start watching their behaviors and taking notes to see if they are preppers or if they pull after kindling, and also when they go into labor. So Vanessa's pretty chill. She is using a good amount of her hay, and she has pulled a very small amount of fur in that corner. So I will mark in her notes that she does pull some fur before kindling, and we will start keeping track of her average gestational date. Tati is a second-time mom. We know that she likes to start nesting about a week early, so we did put her nesting box in there for her. Normally I like to put nesting boxes in about 3 days before does kindle, but if they are showing early signs or we know they're early nesters, we do appropriately put in equipment for them to start doing that so they stay calm. My problem with Tati is with her first litter, her babies were stillborn. She normally has her babies about 2 days past her due date. So we're hoping for more success this time, but she's a really sweet Californian. This is going to be her second litter. She did amazing her first time. I'm not worried about her at all. She is both a prepper and a afterbirth puller, but if you look in her nesting box, she already has a nice dent and some fur pulled out. Last time she had 9 kits and she lost 1. Belle, I'm not too worried about. I honestly don't think she's pregnant, but I will prep anyway, but she's not giving her normal signs. Stormy is my blue silver fox, and she is the doe I'm most worried about. She is a second-time mom, but the first time around, she was an older first-time mom, and she had a very hard delivery, lost the entire litter, and also had the equivalency of a 4th-degree tear. So she's been off now for about 3 months to heal, and we're going to try again. And I do believe she's pregnant because she does have some hair pulling and some nesting, but she's a sweet girl. So basically what I do when we are getting ready for kits is I just observe everything, and I come out to the barn every about 2 to 3 hours just to check on the does to make sure they're doing all right. I keep notes of nesting behavior before, during, and after pregnancy, as well as how far gestationally the does go along and what time of day the does have their babies. This allows me time to prep and know what I should be looking for and if a doe is struggling. If I know a doe has babies in the middle of the night, I'll set an alarm to make sure I am up to check on her. The best prediction of what is going to happen this time is what happened last time, so notes are super important. So in keeping with talking about our breeding does today, I thought this was a great question in my last video. And if you're looking for a general rule of thumb, you want the animal to be at least 90% of its adult weight. Some people say 80 or 85%. I prefer 90 because I do have a couple that are in my barn that are stunted. Not necessarily from that. It could be from feed. It could be from other things. They're from other lines. So my goal is to not deal with that anymore. So my safe number is 90%. For our mini Rex and other breeds, technically we could breed them as young as 6 months. I prefer waiting till 7 to 9 months for the mini Rex. For the silver fox, we normally wait a little longer, normally 7 to 9 months. But the idea is you want to get that animal bred before a year old, which is a reason why I bred Vanessa so early compared to how we had been waiting till 9 months with our silver foxes, because we were having trouble with them not catching at the 9-month mark and they were running up the clock to 12 months. And that's how we had the incident with Stormy. When it comes to raising rabbits, you have the book version of what's supposed to happen compared to what needs to happen. And depending on the doe, depending on the situation, depending on the time of year, sometimes you have to move things left or right. With that being said, I won't breed anything under 6 months. Even though they're physically capable, as in they do have the reproductive capabilities, a lot of times they're not in the right condition and they also don't have the brain to do it. I have found that first-time moms are much more successful if we just hold off a little bit. And then the next question I normally get is, how often do you breed your does, or how many times do you breed your does? So we breed our does anywhere 3 to 4 times a year. We have a very moderate breeding program. And most of our does will breed up until the age of 3-4 years old. So if you're on the low end, you're looking at 9 times the doe is bred in her lifetime. On the high end, you're looking at about 16. But it's very rare that I keep a doe that long, to be honest. Normally within the first couple of litters, I can tell if I want to keep that animal in my breeding program or not. Most of the time, it's just better to move her on as a proven doe to somebody else's program, or just to hard cull her. So when it comes to choosing the next generation of rabbits, I'm pretty picky. For my mini Rex, I'm following the SOP as close as possible. I'm looking for a rabbit that's very short in the shoulders and very ball-like, with a dense fur that does have some bounce back, along with making sure that it fits the SOP for color, nails, and eyes. Currently in my breeding program, I'm looking for smaller mini Rex, so I'm not necessarily looking for the largest of the litter, which is contradictory to what I would normally look for in my meat rabbits. But currently I'm having a problem in my mini Rex that they're getting too big. And it's not that they're fat, they're very well proportioned and very well muscled. The problem is that they're going slightly over the SOP recommended weight. When it comes to my other breeds, which are meat rabbits, I have a bit of a different and more convoluted way of picking. Of course, I'm going to stick to the SOP as close to possible as type. They're all commercial types. With that being said, I'm also looking for grow out rate. So for my meat rabbits, I might be willing to keep an animal with an off marking as long as it's the largest and has the best type out of the litter. Think, for example, my rabbit Vanessa. She's a very fast growing, very large rabbit, but she is an automatic disqualification from show because of the white mark on her nose. But her type is nearly perfect, meaning that her children should, in theory, breed true to that type. And also be fast grow out, which is beneficial towards my program and feeding my family. And although she won't be able to go to the show table, her children definitely will. But if possible, I do stick to the SOP as closely as I can. Once again, keeping in mind color, nails, and eyes on top of that. I say as I have a blue silver fox in my barn waiting on a COD to drop. But really, all of this changes, normally month to month. And it's not a huge change, to be honest, it's just very small changes. You see, in a rabbitry, you're always constantly improving your breed, and what I need this time might be different from what I need next time. So on my mini Rex right now, I'm working on size. A couple of months ago, I was focused more on their shoulders, and before then, the density of their fur. Not too long ago on my Californians, I was focused only on their weight gain and grow out. Now I'm focusing on their black markings. So all of this to say, yes, I do stick to SOP, but I have things I am working on to improve my breed, and that's one of the reasons rabbits never get boring.